Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, right before we hit record, we had one of the most upsetting conversations I can ever remember having with you, where we slowly went through Illinois' schedule and went, oh no, oh Lord, we're going to see Illinois in Indianapolis in December, aren't we? And just the slow creeping realization that, oh, they have all of their toss-up games at home this year. And, oh, I don't know, other than Michigan, I'm not sure there's a sure loss on that schedule. And, oh, boy, Tony, I'm not ready for a world in which Big Ten West champion Bret Bielema leading the Illinois Fighting Illini into the Big Ten championship game as a 42.5-point underdog to Ohio State. Tony, who you got?
Well, that's a great question, Tom. I will say anytime, any opportunity to cover Bret Bielema is an opportunity that we should take full advantage of. I do think he has calmed down over the years. Like, he got humbled at Arkansas, unfortunately. Maybe he starts to get his blood back up being in the Big Ten, and maybe like in what year is this, year 2 or year 3 at Illinois, getting them to the Big Ten championship game where he's feeling his oats and his hops and his barleys and all of that good stuff. But also Big Ten championship game and the Illabuck on the line. Whew, biggest game ever in Big Ten history.
Oh man, I didn't even think about the Illabuck implications. Will they have to bring the kids from the honor societies there and do the turtle pass? Because they do it in a weird way where they award it for the previous game at the next time the teams meet. You don't carry the turtle off the field at the end of the game. Well, I mean, you do if the same team wins every year, which has been how it has worked recently. But yeah, it is. But I didn't even think about that. Would the Illabuck be on the line? I think we need to call Jerry Emig at home right now and get an answer on that. Jerry, we need to know right now, would the Illabuck be on the line? Yes, I know it's not working hours. Yes, I know this is a merely theoretical question, but Jerry, please, this is maybe the most important question you're going to get all year. Again, Tony, who says no?
You can't say no. You can't say no. Those two teams get together. There better be a wooden turtle on the line. Or does it even count? If there's no paint going on that turtle after the game, I don't even know. Would you even want that Big Ten trophy if the wooden turtle didn't come with it? I don't think you would.
I'm picturing Archie Griffin, presented by Discover Card, handing the Illabuck trophy over to someone on the big podium at the end of the game. Man. Greatest moment in conference history, not involving a punter, I say yes.
You hand the trophy to some players, like CJ Stroud would be like, I don't know what this is. What is this? Is this the MVP, most valuable? Like, what is this trophy? And I'm like, it's the Illabuck. It goes to the winner of Illinois and Ohio State. And he would be like, but why? It would be like when Drew Crispin was brought into the post-game room after the Michigan State game. And he's like, I didn't even realize this place existed. Like, there's no point in having this trophy, but it is Ohio State's lone trophy game. So we need to take it seriously and give it the proper respect that it deserves. And I think we have.
More than that, yes. And yeah, I guess, I mean, they haven't played since 2017, right? I'm not forgetting a game. I don't think they've played since that game we're at Monsoon, because they were supposed to play in 2020 and it canceled like the night before the game or something like that. That was that might have been the first one that got canceled. And yeah, I don't think they've played since 2017. So yeah, maybe the universe owes us an Illabuck game, Tony, and maybe we're going to get to see it in Indianapolis. Have I done a 180 on this whole thing? Look, maybe. I don't know. Possibly.
Tom, let's stop talking about Illinois.
Let's talk about Rutgers. Yes. Let's go in, I don't know, a direction. I don't know if that's the better direction. It's a direction. It's Rutgers, yes.
It's east, but it feels like south. Anyway, so this is our rewatch episode of the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. Just want to let you know we will not have an episode tomorrow. We will be back on Thursday with our very favorite bold prediction show. Big news coming on that front this week that you'll want to stay tuned for. I cannot wait. But Tom, let's talk about what we've learned from rewatching this Ohio State Rutgers win. Buckeyes 49-10, as you all know. And I'll let you go first.
Yes, Ohio State Rutgers, the rewatch show. We watched it again, so you didn't have to. My first takeaway came on that onside kick. And, first half, Rutgers has just scored a touchdown, and they try an onside kick. And if you watch, everyone on that front line is staying right there. Jaden Ballard leaves it was just a couple frames early. It was just, he left a little early. And I was watching that and I thought, boy, did they target him in particular because they saw that on film that he might be leaving a little early? Or was that he just moved a split second early because you could kind of see the kicker suddenly aim that direction, and that might have been his mind going, holy crap. But yeah, I had not noticed that live, which I guess that's unsurprising that I was not looking at the furthest guy out on the return formation. But yeah, I did wonder afterwards, I wonder if that's something that they picked up on film or if that was a result of that play, that particular play, and the fact that he looked and went, uh-oh, this is coming to me. It shouldn't be coming to me. Why is this coming to me?
It is interesting, though, because then you watch that as Jaden Ballard goes to the sideline with the football, and you see Parker Fleming like smiling, like pointing at him, like, I told you. And it was clear that they spoke about things this week, like expect an onside kick. It's going to happen. I don't know that we expected it right away, but you don't know how many touchdowns you're going to score and how many kickoffs you're going to have, so you better try it while you've got it. And they did, and I think Parker Fleming had them prepared, but it's interesting. I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and watch and see, and maybe go back and watch others to see if Jaden Ballard is the guy that is always leaving or has left too much too often.
Yeah, that was that. I was not quite dedicated enough to do a, Toledo rewatch or a Wisconsin rewatch to go find that out. But Tony, if you're willing to do a Rutgers rewatch, go with God, son. Go with God.
Let's see what that Arkansas State game is up to, and go from there. My first one, Tom. Zach Harrison may have played his best game as a Buckeye, and he was credited with, I believe, all of 2 tackles. And he did have a forced fumble. There's a quarterback hurry in there. There was, at one point, there's a third down pressure on a stunt where he came around and forced an incompletion. There was, he tackled the quarterback on a read. There was a bad snap. He tackled the quarterback on a read. Obviously, the forced fumble that should have been a sack, Tom. Quarterback drops back, and then he gets pressured. Zach Harrison hits him, knocks the ball out, probably around 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. The ball bounces to the line of scrimmage where Ohio State recovers it. But I don't know why that's not a sack. It should be a sack right there where the ball is fumbled. That did not get credited to him, so that's unfortunate. He's so long that it's, remember when Sam Hubbard would tackle the quarterback and the running back together, and Zach Harrison can do that. And he's difficult to read because no matter how you read him, he can still kind of impact the other guy who gets the ball. Then, of course, he had the bull rush at the 3-tech that led to the Steel Chambers touchdown. He matched the hand of the quarterback, knocks the ball into the air. Steel Chambers catches it. Just a really outstanding game from him. And it's his best game, I think, but also he's had other instances like this that don't necessarily get shown in the in the box score, and maybe people don't notice it. But if you just watch him, like, he was doing really well, getting into the backfield, inside, outside, and just impacting the quarterback, which is all you're really asking the defensive end to do on pass plays.
Exactly. And yeah, I had him down on my list as well, where he didn't have a real loud statistical day, but he had a really impactful day where he was just kind of in the middle of stuff. It was, whenever something bad was happening for Rutgers, it was like, oh, there's Zach Harrison again. And he didn't necessarily show up in the box score, but he was bad stuff adjacent for a lot of stuff that happened to Rutgers. And I think he's someone who, there is a subset of the Ohio State fan base that would say he's been a bust. And, you look at the 5-star ranking and you figure, well, certainly he's going to be the next Chase Young. And there are a lot of 5-stars who aren't Chase Young or Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. Those guys are the exception, not the rule. And he seems like he's following in, Jonathan Cooper was a 5-star and, had sort of the same thing where he got on the field, but didn't necessarily make a ton of plays. But then later in his career, he sort of kept improving every year and turned into a guy who you saw around the ball. I mean, Jonathan Cooper, you go back to the Sugar Bowl against Clemson. Well, guess what? Jonathan Cooper's got a strip sack in that game in a very big spot against Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. So I think Zach Harrison is very much on that same path. And, he's such an easy guy to root for. He's such a nice kid and, a local guy. So everyone, I think everyone kind of knows him better than you do a lot of the out of town guys. And, you always feel bad for people who are like 20 and have people on the internet telling them that they are, that they stink because they're not as good as the people on the internet had built them up to be in their heads. Like, that's not really a fair thing to do to someone who's 20. So it's nice to see, it has been, a progression for Zach, but it's nice to see him kind of getting, really getting there this year. And, all the guys who are much better this year, it's like, so are they just better this year because they've been progressing, or are they better this year because they have a coaching staff that's putting them in a position to succeed this year, and now they can do what they, you would have hoped they would have been able to do in previous years? That is a great unanswered question, Tony. I have some thoughts, but that is a great unanswered question. I have another one. Then my next one is something that I wrote down, and then Ryan Day started talking about it on Wednesday, and I was like, well, there's my answer. So my note was, boy, they have not done a great job in having Emeka Ibuka in the right spot for punt returns. And, it seems like the ball's been over his head a lot this year, and he's caught most of them. And the first two against Rutgers were, and the first one, the wind is blowing like crazy. And, I can tell you, this is something that Ryan Day talked about. You looked at the flags at the top of the stadium and they were blowing one way. The flags and the goalposts were blowing the other way. It was a very difficult day to sort of judge the wind in the stadium. And it was, it wasn't tornado, hurricane force winds or anything, but it was blowing enough that you really constantly noticed the wind during the game, even down on the field. And, Day talked about the fact that with the new turf, the ball will hit it and it will just take off on a punt. If it drops in front of you, you don't, it will bounce and you could give up 20, 30 yards of field position potentially on a punt that hits in front of you. So they don't want them playing for too far back, because then you risk having the punt hit in front of you and then skip past you for 20, 30 yards. So that's a difficult balance that I guess they have to strike. And, it turns out they are not just dumb, like you might have thought, like, hey, dummies, why don't you back him up 5 yards if all the punts are going 5 yards over his head? That's the answer on that. That's why they're doing that. And that's always a difficult thing because, playing baseball or coaching softball, you're taught it's easier to run in on a fly ball than to run back. So you would think you'd start further back, but I guess they're more concerned with punts landing in front. And with the wind going left and right and all around, it was a lot harder to kind of adjust for how long they thought it really was going to go.
Yeah, I like that he gave an answer. And it was an answer that was more than just, well, we're still trying to figure it out. Like, there was a reasoning behind what they were doing. And I always, when it's windy like that, I always, you look at the flags, but I always look to see how much are the refs' pants shaking and, like flapping in the winds. And they were moving pretty good. Like, it's windy when 3 feet above the turf, its pants are flapping. And so it gives you an idea of the conditions.
If the ref looks like he's wearing jodhpurs, boy, you better adjust for that in the kicking game, because that can look at the hair down on the sideline of all the photographers blowing in the wind. Yes, magnificently.
You think it was bad this week? You should have seen them like back in the 80s when they were playing on cement and they had parachute pants. There's refs flying into B deck, bouncing off of walls, and then landing, getting rug burns, and just splatting on the cement turf. I mean, RIP to those guys. A bunch of sterators were lost.
That was that was the first event at the Ets Games was ref parasailing. Yes, that was that's how the whole thing got started. Gene Sterator, R.I.P.
R.I.P. Gene Senior. My next one goes again with kind of the defensive line where. And actually it's the entire defense, just how well it all works together. Like I don't know this for a fact, but seeing some of these pass rushes where it was just complete bull rushes rather than losing contain. And I wonder how much freelancing there is able to be done with these pass rushes. Like sometimes like you can't freelance because we need you to be contained. So whatever you do, don't spin inside, don't do this spin move inside because you'll lose contain. So I wonder how much they are constrained with the pass rush, which is something that you and Ross have talked about coming into this season, what the focus will be, not necessarily on the quarterback all the time. Jim Knowles said today that they want to get after the quarterback more, and he's going to devise ways to do it. But just how well this defense works as a single unit. It's like a Rube Goldberg machine where every action leads to another action, and it is all done with a purpose for one singular outcome, as opposed to, I guess, Tom, last year, which was like a Whoopi Goldberg machine where nothing really worked well, and one action led to some completely random other action. But just the way everything works together, and you can watch it and see guys doing stuff for each other so that the linebacker comes free, or the Sonny Styles sealing the edge so that the runner can't get outside of him and he just has to be contained by defensive tackles. Like, you've got safeties doing stuff for defensive linemen in this defense, and it's pretty cool.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Tony, it sounds like you're saying that the defense is playing in a more coordinated fashion this year. Do you have any sense for what might lead to a more coordinated defense this season than last?
Well, I think it's probably maybe tied into the fact that this is the year of the tight end, and when you see a position excel and you're like, oh, gosh, I wish it could be my year. And then you play better as individuals, and then you play better as a team. And then you say to the coaches, we're sorry for not being as good as we were, or we could have been better last year. That's our fault. But please help us be good this year. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's certainly one possible explanation for the more coordinated defense this year. I can't really think of anything else. So yeah, I guess we'll just move on. I had one that was sort of related, and this is probably not a full one. This is just sort of a note that I wrote down. At one point when Rutgers was backed up way back in their own end, inside the 10, you saw Jack Sawyer just bull rushing the Rutgers left tackle and just pushing him backwards. My only note on this is not so finesse anymore. Like Jack Sawyer, remember last year when Larry Johnson called him a finesse player? Like, maybe less so now than before. It feels like he might be someone who's kind of coming along in the strength department there as well. And I mean, he's in a position where I think he's uniquely well situated to succeed. Where he's quick off the line, very athletic. And they're putting him in spots where it's not a spot where these offensive linemen are used to, different angles than these offensive linemen are used to having guys come from, different spots where, hey, maybe, if you're lining Jack Sawyer up over a guards are used to, 3 techs and nose tackles and 300-pound guys, not guys who are 50 pounds less than that and much quicker than that, being lined up over them. It's just a very creative approach. And, I think he's someone who, when we first started talking about Jim Knowles and the Leo position / the Jack position, I think that was one of the first names that everyone thought of, like, oh boy, I wonder what he could do in that position. And the answer, it turns out to be, yeah, a whole bunch. Like he's another guy who hasn't necessarily had the massive stat sheet kind of year, but they've just been so disruptive all along that defensive line. All of those guys, it feels like their impact is maybe, outweighs what the statistical sheet would tell you their impact has been. The linebackers have been very productive, but that's been reflected on the sheet. The defensive line just feels like they have had a much outsized impact on the game compared to what they're being credited with. So I'm not going to count that as a full one. So I'm going to say, boy, who is a surprisingly elusive runner for a guy that you think of as the pork chop, the bowling ball guy who's just going to run you over. Miyan Williams does a real good job of, a lot of times the offensive line has been very good this year. And there's been a lot of times when Miyan Williams has just gone untouched 10, 15 yards downfield. But boy, there were a couple plays where there were, 2 Rutgers guys in the hole and he somehow made both of them miss. And it's like, you shouldn't be able to look like that and be that shifty. Like Travion Henderson is the lightning guy. You're the thunder guy. You run people over. That's your job. And, Look at Miyan Williams coming in here and stealing Travion Henderson's job like a jerk, making guys miss in the hole. Like, that's not your role. But boy, he is he's someone who, Tony Alford told a funny story about his recruitment on Wednesday. I'll let you can listen to the Wednesday morning Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning podcast. Kevin Noon told that story. That was very entertaining on how recruiting Miyan Williams was not necessarily as easy as Tony Alford thought it would be. But he's someone he's like the polar opposite of Zach Harrison, where he came in and half the fan base was going, Iowa State, what? This guy stinks. And he has turned into someone who, boy, I mean, can you imagine Miyan Williams at Iowa State? If what would that look like on that team? Because he does not look. He looks very much like a star Ohio State running back right now, and he's got a good offensive line in front of him too. But yeah, he has been a revelation this season. He's another guy who you've kind of felt like it's sort of coming. Like you would have 10 carries in 2020, and people kind of went, "Ooh, you can kind of see it there." You are really getting a chance to see it this year.
Yeah, I have Miyan written down here as well. Also Jack Sawyer, but first Miyan. And the question that I have for you, because that was a specific question that I needed you to answer. For me, Maurice Clarett is always the standard in terms of making that first guy miss. Miyan Williams is getting to be up there. J.K. Dobbins was getting to be up there. Who do you think makes the first guy miss better, Miyan Williams or J.K. Dobbins?
Lydell Ross.
No.
Miyan Williams or J.K. Dobbins? I think I'm still going with J.K. Dobbins based on, I don't know if at this point of J.K. Dobbins' career, well, I guess this is his third year, so I guess at this point of J.K. Dobbins' career, he was at that level. But, at this point in terms of the number of career carries, I don't think J.K. Dobbins was where Miyan Williams is. I think Miyan Williams still has a ways to go to get to where J.K. Dobbins finished his career at Ohio State. But I don't, the 2018 J.K. Dobbins to the 2019 J.K. Dobbins is, it's not quite up there with like the 1994 to 1995 Terry Glenn jump. But I mean, that was one of the bigger, guy who was actually on the field going from one level and like just skipping 3 levels and going up to the top of the chart. I don't think Miyan Williams is quite there yet, but boy, he's, this is not a conversation I necessarily would have thought we'd be having 3 weeks ago, but here we are.
And yet we saw that ability against Clemson in 2020. And it was just a glimpse, and it was like, well, that's not natural. That's not normal. And then you get to see it a little bit more last year. Now it's become expected. If he gets tackled in the backfield, it's a surprise at this point, like it was with Maurice Clarett, who would basically like, well, we don't have to block the first guy. And they didn't do any read options. They're just like, we just won't block the first guy. And Maurice Clarett will handle it. Don't worry about that guy. With Miyan Williams, like you said, there was the time there he had 2 defenders waiting for him, and he's just like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna go this way. I'll see you guys later.
Respectfully decline your offer to tackle me. Best wishes, Miyan.
He's just really, really good and really gifted. And even there's a carry where he's putting his head down and then he sees a little bit of a hole and then he cuts. It's like he was getting ready to bulldoze somebody. He's like, oh no, I can go this way instead and bulldoze somebody over there. He's like equal opportunity bulldozer. And he's like, don't worry, you'll get yours. I'll be back. and then goes and hits somebody else. Just again, one of the more entertaining running backs to watch nationally. Jack Sawyer, I also had written down just the bull rushing that he was doing. He's a weak side defensive end, essentially doing some strong side defensive end stuff in terms of just sealing the edge. And there were just some loud thuds. I wrote down here that if like you have a wall that you use as a missile, that's basically what they're doing with Jack Sawyer at times. Just seeing how hard they can throw him into a tackle or a guard or into a tight end. And there's just loud thuds. And it's not like these guys have mics on them. But good job by him. So I'm not sure where we are, Tom. Mine was one of mine as well. I have the Zach. I have the defense as a whole. Is it my turn for number 4 or your turn for number 4?
I went first, so it's your turn for number 4.
Then I will go with some people you probably didn't even notice in this game, the linebackers. Now,
Ooh.
Tom, the linebackers, Steel Chambers, Tommy Eichenberg, mainly how fast they are playing this year. Steel Chambers running down the line, tackling running backs, receivers, whomever. Tommy Eichenberg, where you're facing 2 or 3 mobile quarterbacks and he's beating them to the sideline. But when your middle linebacker can chase down mobile quarterbacks, that's a great sign. Steel Chambers is as fast as we've ever seen him. He's more comfortable. Obviously, he triggers well. So does Tommy. There's one blitz that I liked, and I posted it on Facebook because we're trying to get our Facebook numbers up. Buckeye Huddle, look us up on Facebook, like and follow on Facebook. But they come up and they're showing blitz, and then the ball gets snapped, and they take one step back to let the quarterback think, okay, these guys are dropping in coverage, and then they come on the blitz. And it's like just a complete jerk move to be doing something like this. But just they go in unison. It's pretty neat with Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg complementing each other well and playing fast, like I said. So those two guys, obviously you saw them during the game, but rewatching it, just seeing how many plays Steel Chambers was making. And Tommy Eichenberg is always around the ball. Just 2.5 tackles for a loss for those guys. Obviously, the interception for Steel Chambers, and just solid job by Tommy Eichenberg, who speaks in grunts, basically according to Jim Knowles. So good on him.
Yeah, that was a good line. And Tommy is not the most enthusiastic interview subject, I will say that, but I mean he's been everything they could have possibly asked for out of that linebacker spot. And he and Steel Chambers have both been really good this year. And I think a lot of that is attributable to the defensive line, and the defensive line was really good again. That was another one that I had that's overlaps a little bit with some stuff you've said, but it's just Rutgers, but the defensive line was really good again. They've just been constantly just very disruptive. And, for what they have been doing, they have just controlled the line of scrimmage and opened things up for the linebackers. And it has just been complete. It has just been, they've just had the free run of the place for the most part. And, I did like the step back and then blitz thing. That was, I think it was last week on the show, we talked about the jerk route, and like that the thing that the offense does that just makes the defender look like a jerk because there's no possible way to defend it. That is like the defensive equivalent of a jerk route. Like, oh, come on, that's not cool, man. Like we had an understanding. This is not how gentlemen behave on the football field. But yeah, it is. The linebackers have unquestionably been I think you could. Boy, and I'm about to say that they're unquestionably the most improved unit on the field, but the tight ends might also be the most improved unit on the field, but the defensive line might also be the most improved unit on the field, and the offensive line's been pretty good. So safeties have been pretty good. Yeah. And, and then the question is, do you want to injury adjust this stuff? Because there are units that are doing stuff, the cornerbacks have been pretty good and they've been doing it without a bunch of cornerbacks this year. So, turns out Ohio State football 2022 might be better than Ohio State football 2021. Exclusive, must credit Buckeye Weekly Podcast. Let's see. Well, this is my fifth one, so I'm going to combine. I'll be Bobby Bad Vibes here for a minute. There was a stretch right around halftime where CJ Stroud was not playing great football. There was the play where he ran out of bounds for like a 12-yard loss on 3rd and goal, and it ended up getting wiped out by a defensive holding penalty. But and then right after halftime, he made that terrible throw. I mean, like, however bad that throw looked live, it was so much worse on TV. Oh my goodness! Right in the middle of 4 guys. Like you said on the post-game show that he made that decision to throw that ball in the locker room at halftime, and you were 100% right. That was maybe the worst throw of his career. Just no awareness at all. And then he came back and he was fine again. It just felt like he was a little bit frustrated at halftime, right before halftime, and just a little off as a result of that. And had G. Scott at one point up the seam. They pointed that out on the broadcast, and he threw to Mitch Rossi instead. And he just seemed a little off in that stretch. And then he bounced back and he was fine again. But there was just that little stretch where CJ Stroud did not look like CJ Stroud. And I think a lot of it was just the frustration of, trying, that stupid long series of 1st and goal and penalty and 1st and goal and penalty and 3rd and goal and penalty, and just over and over and over again, and taking, 7 plays to get the ball in from the 8-yard line or whatever it ended up being. But, that you haven't seen that out of him for a while. He's been pretty unflappable. And he just looked a little, I don't know, just a little off during that whole sequence.
Yeah, and that also was true the week before against Wisconsin at times, but he's still in there. Like that flawless CJ Stroud is still in there, and you will see it later on, and you'll see it throughout the game, and it's just like there are just some snaps here and there. Like that interception kind of reminded me of the throw he made against Indiana last year in triple coverage, but everybody raved about it because he dropped it in over the linebacker, and it was the only place it could be, and it was a perfect throw. Felt to me rewatching it like he was trying to do that again. He's like, well, I can get it in there. I'm CJ Stroud. But the weather affected, the wind affected a lot of footballs on the day. I'm not chalking necessarily that one up to wind. Like the wind will cause a bad decision to get worse, and I think that's what happened there. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. Although I still think he's pretty good. I'm not sure why you're jumping off the bandwagon. My last one, some of the routes that Emeka Egbuka was running, were just fantastic. Like he was snapping his routes, running hard, looking like he's trying to be Jackson Smith and Jigba. Ryan Day talked on Wednesday about, or Tuesday, how much they miss him, how much they wish he was out there, how many plays they had set up for him. And Emeka is trying to step up as he can. He's played very well, but just watching how much some of these cuts that he's making on his routes, pretty impressive. The non-touchdown catch from Marvin Harrison, where he's running all over the place, steps out of the back of the end zone. They never show a replay of the actual catch, as far as I could tell from the YouTube that I watched. It would have been nice to see a replay of that just to see that kind of skill and precision. However, watching him run all over the place kind of reminded me of Tom, and here's a timely reference, an old Family Circus comic strip of the dotted lines running through the backyard and all of that stuff. He was running all over the backyard in that play, and he just couldn't keep his feet, the 1 foot in, I guess. But those two running, although I should say Emeka, much better routes than Marvin Harrison on that one in particular.
Yeah, that felt like a just get open play, and he eventually did get open, so credit to him. But yes, we did unfortunately step out. We call that the Orlovsky, stepped out the back of the end zone. So yeah, he is he might be good, is I think my big takeaway there, that he might have a future in footballing, that Marvin Harrison Jr. I had a couple other things that are, I don't think I'm really counting these as official observations, but boy, right after CJ Stroud threw that interception, Marvin Harrison, that might have been the biggest hit of the game. He laid that Rutgers defensive back out on that return. It was an enthusiastic tackle. That was impressive. And the other thing was, I mentioned on last week's show that I got booted off the sideline, right on the back corner of the end zone, because the network TV guy said he had to have the camera there right on the sideline. It's the rules. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm sure you wouldn't lie to me. And then Marvin Harrison has the thing where he's reaching out for the pylon on that one play. Does Big Ten Network have a camera on that? No, they do not, Tony. No, they do not. I was like, boy, would have been nice to have someone right there, like I was told last week that they were going to, but they didn't. So anyway, not that I'm annoyed that he got booted out of my spot, which was a really good spot, but that's okay. I guess it did underscore, like, you really would have liked to have that shot there, because that would have been the decisive shot, and they're just looking at the replay over and over and over again, and no one really seemed to have a decisive angle on it. And I didn't realize on the field, they never announced that they were replaying that, which was weird, but then they replayed it over and over and over again. So I figured Greg Schiano was going nuts because they hadn't actually replayed it, but then they replayed it a million times, so obviously they were. I just don't know why they didn't actually announce that as a replay. So,
Tom, you were confused by Big Ten replay officials? Is that what I'm hearing? Join the club.
It is wild, yes. And there was a hit on Emeka Egbuka where he went up, kind of caught a ball behind him, juggled it, caught it, and then it was like, that was a pretty forcible helmet-to-helmet hit on a defenseless receiver. But maybe no one really does know what targeting is, because that sure looked like targeting to me. But tremendous intentions, terrible execution would be my 4-word summary of the targeting rule to date.
I've got a couple of other notes here. One, Mitch Rossi wants to fight. I'm starting to notice that, like, he's the first guy to get in somebody's face. Like, if you hit his quarterback, or you hit his punter, or if you hit his running back, or if you hit, whatever, it's like he is down for some fisticuffs. But he's from Tennessee, so you figure that's to be the case. Teron Vincent had some nice moments in this one, getting into the backfield. Josh Proctor continues to play really well, and a play on a screen pass where somebody missed the tackle at the line of scrimmage, and he came from like 10 yards away to keep that to like a 2-yard gain. He was the first guy to recognize the throwback to Johnny Langan, and he was there when Steel Chambers missed the tackle. Great job by him. Kai Stokes missed a tackle, but then also had a route where he ran an out route for his receiver. Perfect blitz call that allowed him to tackle Johnny Langan on an end around. Like, it was like Jim Knowles knew that play was coming, even though Johnny Langan is like lined up at the flex tight end. And, it's like, well, this is obviously worth the tight end around. It's like, it's not really a thing, but they called a blitz right into it. So those are a few of the rest of my notes. Anything else, Tom, before we go?
Tight end around.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, I don't know how often I'll get to use it, but it seems pretty good. What do you think?
I think we should use it more and get to see it more.
Agreed. Especially this year. What with it being
the year of the tight end. That will then do it for this look back on Rutgers week. A week that will live forever. And because the internet is forever, so it's on calendars, it's on YouTube, you can find it. It's probably still on your DVR, but that will do it for this episode. Again, a reminder, we won't have a Wednesday episode for you. Sorry about that, but we will have a Thursday, and we'll make it up to you however we can on our terms. But thank you guys for tuning in. Check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can find us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle as well. That will do it for today, and we'll talk to you all later.